Hi, I'm Gareth Green, and in this video we're going to be thinking about how to write canon by augmentation. So first of all, let's make sure we're happy about the terms. Canon simply means that one part begins and a second part comes in a number of beats or possibly bars later and does the same music, either at the same pitch or at a transposed pitch. Now, augmentation. When we augment something, we make it bigger, you know. I lost a lot of weight and then I started eating a few sweets and chocolate bars and things, and guess what? My weight augmented. It got bigger, so now I've got to diminish again. And it's so easy to do that, isn't it? It is if you've got my name, I tell you. Anyway, augmentation, making something bigger. So in terms of what does this mean musically, it's really applying to the rhythm. And what we generally do when we augment something is we double the value of notes. So canon by augmentation. What we're going to do in this exercise is we're going to set one part moving, and then we're going to have a second part using exactly the same notes running behind it by a couple of bars, a couple of measures, but we're going to double all the lengths of the notes. And you'll see how this all unfolds. And for me, there's a kind of good way of doing this so it works. The danger of this is if you just start writing the first part and hope for the best that the second part's going to fit in augmentation, I'll tell you something for nothing, it won't. So better to go step by step on this, and if you do it in small chunks, you're going to be much more likely to succeed. Okay, well, I've mapped out a handful of bars here. You can see where we're going with this. And we're in D major and we've got a 2/2 time signature. And I'm going to start in the upper part with the lower part coming in a couple of bars, couple of measures later. So let's start by putting together an idea in the upper part. Okay, so here we go in D major. We're doing something very obvious, like starting on the tonic and then just kind of spelling out the tonic chord really. So all those notes belong to the tonic chord of D with one passing note or passing tone along the way. So that's given me a first bar. All of that's kind of chord one because I've got two minim beats in the bar, two half note beats. Kind of one chord for the bar for the measure is going to work quite nicely. We don't have to do that in every single bar, but it sort of works okay. So if that's going to be chord one, I'm sort of thinking, well, let's do something really obvious and move to chord 5. You don't have to do that, but it's a perfectly reasonable thing to do. Now, this is the point at which the second part is going to enter. So we don't want to just bat on with the upper part. We want to get the bottom part in place so we know what that's going to look like and sound like. So the upper part so far, it goes like this. Okay, that's my opening melodic statement. Now, let's get it copied out into the lower part in notes of twice the value. So here's the first note, double the value. Second note, double the value. Third note, double the value. Of course, what you also realized is that what took up one bar or one measure there is going to take up 2 bars or 2 measures here, and that's going to have implications for us later. If we're doubling the value, we're going to double the number of bars, aren't we? So that's then going to be that, and then it's going to go to that. So hopefully you can see exactly what's happened so far. We started by writing the opening statement. We've then copied the same opening statement into that, and that's got the lower part moving. But of course, we've still got another bar to write. So let's now put that in. And of course, one thing you notice is that these note lengths become quite long because, you know, everything is doubled in its value. So one thing we're going to have to be careful about is that the upper part is mobile enough to cover the fact that that lower part is going slower. And it's also one reason why I've given the upper part a certain degree of rhythmic energy at the beginning. If you'd set those opening notes as long notes and then they doubled in length, they'd be incredibly long. They're already quite long as we've got it. So the upper part begins like this. And then the lower part's going to come in. So it's quite interesting, isn't it? Because they're the same pitch, but it has a different kind of musical personality because I haven't quite got the agile rhythm that I've got going in the upper part at the beginning. But now I know what these notes are, I can now fill in what's going to happen next up here because I can make it fit that bass part that we've got. Now, because, as I said, that lower part is going in this more spaced kind of rhythm, I need perhaps to keep the upper part reasonably busy. So it's looking like there's, harmonically, there's nothing overexciting happening here. That's a kind of chord 1, that's a kind of chord 5. Because of that, all of that is sort of looking like chord 1. This is sort of looking like chord 5, but I could here use a chord 2 and then move to a chord 5. So we could just have a little bit of harmonic variety, but harmonically this might turn out to be quite straightforward. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, now then, let's leap an octave so there's something quite distinctive happening melodically, and then let's get busy. So I'm just coming straight down the scale there. I'm just going to move up a note here so that I can run in compound thirds with the lower part. That's perhaps going to take me back to an A again. You may not want to go back to the same note you started the previous bar on, but anyway, it will do for now. And then maybe have a leap down an octave and kind of run up to the tonic. Let's do that for now. I mean, you might want to carry on being busy there, I don't know, but that will work from the point of view of the exercise we're trying to do. So far we've got this on the first line. And you can hear that with a bit of articulation in there, maybe some thoughts about dynamics, this is going to come to life quite quickly. Now, what we've got to bear in mind, of course, now we have written those two bars, those two measures in the upper part, we've got to get those into the lower part. Those two bars, those two measures are going to take up these 4 bars, these 4 measures, which is going to take us all the way to the end of this extract, isn't it? So my next job then is to carry on transferring the upper part into the lower part. Now, one reason for using those quavers, those 8th notes, when I was up here, is that, when I get here, that's going to go into those crotchets or quarter notes. And we need a bit of movement in the lower part because this stuff is a little bit static, isn't it? So we need to get it moving again. So to generate that, I've got to generate that. So you sort of see some of the thinking that you've got to sort of put yourself through. Now, the next 2 notes are going to be 2 beats of F sharp, 2 beats of G, and then we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 4 beats on the last note. So you see how all of this has been the augmentation of this. Now, what you realise that over a fairly short canon like this, we've kind of done the canon pretty quickly, haven't we? Because, we only had these 4 bars, these 4 measures there, but it's turned into 8 bars or 8 measures down here. And if this is really the end of the piece, I mean, in the real world, it wouldn't be because this would be an incredibly short piece of music. I'm just trying to sort of show you how this works. It will kind of make more sense over a longer time span. But now, because we've effectively come to the final double bar line, and that's the end of where this canon is going to play out. Well, all you've then got to do is to say, okay, we're going to now write something free in the remaining bars that kind of fits with all of that and makes it work. So I'm going to change color so you can see what's canonic and what isn't. You see what I mean? Because we've finished in the lower part, the upper part is now free just to write something that fits with it. Okay, so I'm outlining that chord 2 that I was talking about a moment ago, and then maybe moving on to the chord 5. And then we need to keep busy because we've got a static situation in the lower part. It's amazing what you can do just using chord tones or harmony notes with the odd passing tone, passing note, to generate plenty of mobility in a melodic line. So let's just have a think, what does this bit sound like for those couple of measures there, those couple of bars. So you see why I've been busy in the upper part, because the lower part is pretty steady, isn't it? Now it helps that in the next measure, the bass part is moving a bit more, but I think we still need to keep moving up here. Now, harmonically, well, this is looking like a chord 5 again. We could have a passing note there onto something like a 2 in first inversion, then a 1 in first inversion might make sense. Let's do something a little bit more interesting now. Octave leap, just to make a bit of character melodically, and to create a dissonance. You can see what I'm doing here, creating a sort of 7/6 appoggiatura dissonance there, just to kind of make sure we've got enough musical interest going on. Then I could move on to a 1 in first inversion, use some passing notes, some passing tones in there, and then maybe move on to a chord 4 there. So how's that sounding in these 2 bars? Okay, you see what I mean? The upper part is agile rhythmically, it's covering up for slower moving lower part, and melodically trying to do kind of quite a bit of conjunct movement, so we're not bouncing around all over the landscape, but having occasional moments where we've got more distinctive leaps going on. Now, by the time you get to that point, we're heading for the final cadence. It's a perfect cadence, isn't it? It's sort of going 5, 1. So we just need things that fit with that. And what I'm thinking now is if we use another A there and dot the rhythm, well, it gives us a little bit of rhythmic independence. That is a passing note that sort of turns that 5 into a 5/7. Bit of contramotion, no bad thing when you're writing contrapuntally. I could just go straight for a D, but how about we just make it a little bit more interesting in the last bar by using that F sharp that also belongs to chord 1. Okay, well, again, there are things we could refine about that, but hopefully you can see how a canon by augmentation now works and what some of the issues are. Now, how does it all play out? It goes like this. So you notice in this example, quite a bit of that is free, isn't it? The red notes are free of the canon. But the longer the piece goes on, the more of the canon by augmentation you'll be kind of working between those 2 parts. So this is just by means of illustration, really, just to give you what could be the first 10 bars, the first 10 measures of a piece. Once you're writing something that's much longer, then obviously the canon by augmentation works out further. But basic principle, one part sets off, the other part follows it. Your choice, how many beats or how many bars later, and you're going to just double the length of the notes. And then when the other part has got to the end, having doubled those length of notes, Well, the part that started can be free to finish the piece, free of the canon. So there you have it, canon by augmentation. Well, if you've enjoyed this video, let me invite you to make a little trip to the Music Matters website, www.mmcourses.co.uk. When you get there, lots of things for you to click on the homepage. Have a look at Maestros. Now, Maestros is our Music Matters international community. It's a wonderful place where people from all over the world can kind of meet together. So level 1, and these levels are nothing to do with ability, they're just levels of engagement. Level 1 is a kind of support level. It doesn't cost very much at all. You get various perks, emojis and things, and you get early access to our videos, so well worth sort of joining up at that level. If you're sort of thinking, well, I'd like to go a bit further than that, go to level 2. You have all the benefits of level 1, but at level 2, additional perks, including access to a monthly live stream. Now, this is where we spend an hour together every month. We have a live chat running through it, so you can ask your questions, you can make comments. I try to inject a solid hour of teaching, usually on topics that have been requested by members of the group. You also get to know other people, realize that you're not on your own on this musical journey, that other people have got the same kind of interesting questions as you have. So everybody who's joined this thing is telling us how much they've learned from each other, how much they've enjoyed making these friendships with people from different parts of the world, and how it really encourages us on the musical journey together. If you want to go for the optimum, go for level 3. Well, you have all the benefits of level 1 and level 2. Level 3 gives you discounts on our courses, and it gives you access to a second live stream every month, much more individually tailored. So this is where you can submit your own composition, your own harmony exercise, your own recorded performance, and you can have absolutely personal feedback from me. We share it in the group so that everybody can learn from everybody else. It's a deeply respectful group, so people are entirely positive and encouraging with each other. And it's been amazing to see how people have made really impressive progress, just kind of refining their own work and also bouncing ideas off other people's, seeing and hearing what other people are doing. And it's lots of people have told us that they've progressed much faster than ever before, and they've just loved being with these other people. So you have to be in it to experience it, but I do encourage you to have a look at Maestros and come along and be part of our global community if you'd like to be. Lots of other stuff on the homepage as well, including our courses. But have a look at Maestros, www.mmcourses.co.uk.